How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing: always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about ChargePoint. They had earnings in the after hours. We'll talk about it briefly. Plus, we'll go over the price action and what you want to keep an eye on going into tomorrow and as well as for Friday. So I won't waste any more time. Let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you're a shareholder or you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to go over is the technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. We want to know what it looks like in the bearish case scenario and as well as in the bullish case scenario. And then we're going to go on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information. The reason why this is important because it does have an impact on the way the stock performs. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know the buying and the selling behavior on the retail side and as well as on the institutional side. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some more details. So let's get to it. So we're going to do a technical analysis for ChargePoint. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at $14.07, being down 1.54%. Inside of the after hours, it is at $15.15 at the time of this recording due to earnings. But we'll talk about that later in the video. When we take a look at where it ranged on today, on the low, it tested $13.74, and then on the high, testing $14.43. When we take a look at our volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 9.853 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 8.426 million shares. So we did have above average volume on the day, but you can see we dealt with a good amount of volatility. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is the daily chart, you can see from the RSI down below, it is at 49.14. It's almost right there in the middle. And then when we take a look at our moving averages here on the chart, we are below the 200-day, the 100-day, the 50-day, and we did close just above the 21-day EMA. It is at $13.98, and we closed at $14.07. So it is very clear, as you can take a look at this chart, that ChargePoint has been on quite the downtrend, and it is in a bear market since it's trading below all of our major moving averages. But as you can see what's going down inside of the after hours, it is up to the 50-day, which is right at $15.16. So there is a good chance going into tomorrow we could witness a pullback. So that's one thing you want to be aware of. There is no need to FOMO into this price whatsoever. But if we end up seeing some strength going into tomorrow, then there's a possibility where we can get to $16. If we do have a pullback, since we did see a high of the day at $14.43, I can see us actually getting back to this level within the next week or 2 weeks at the most, because we still continue to have headwinds inside of the market. It's something we can't ignore. And if it decides to pull back further than 14, then I'm expecting for us to continue to hold up support at $13 and as well right here at $12.50 if we get back down to that level. So now let's move on to the short interest information. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for ChargePoint. Scrolling down further on the page, green rows indicate new positions while red rows indicate closed positions. So we see a recent filing here for March the 1st, which we have a closed position, and then we also see Parkside Financial Bank and Trust with a closed position. Taking a look at the recent filings for the 28th, we have the Round Hill Meme ETF that purchased 4,536 shares. We also have a short position from AQR that went in with 2,757 shares. And we also have Guggenheim Variable Funds that purchased 35,037 shares. And we have Guggenheim S Mid Cap Value Fund A that purchased 83,097 shares. And we also have Guggenheim Small Cap Value Fund A that went and purchased 1,362 shares. And then we also see Guggenheim Variable Funds Trust purchasing 13,978 shares. And then again, Guggenheim's Variable Funds Trust that went in with 6,531 shares. So again, we see institutions have been loading up on ChargePoint. And when we take a look at our graph here, you can see as far as for March is concerned, yes, institutions have been loading up when it comes to their positions. So this is a great sign for long-term investors. Taking a look at the short interest, the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 60.14%. And then for the off-exchange short volume, it is just over 1.0 1.07 million shares. Scrolling down further on the page, the short shares availability is at 4.8 million, updated 25 minutes ago. And then for the short ball fee rate, it is at 0.58%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 28th, it was at 49.53. And then for the close of the first, which was yesterday, being at 60.14. So what this tells us, ChargePoint does have short squeeze potential. Now let's move on to the order flow distribution. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for ChargePoint. So we see on the inflow, it was at 15.33, and then on the outflow, it's at 14.63. So we had an inflow day. Keep in mind, these numbers are in the millions. Taking a look at the large, we had 0. On the medium, we had 8.04, and then on the small, we had 7.29. Taking a look at the outflow side, you can see we had 0 on the large. On the medium, 7.83, and then on the small, it was 6.80. Taking a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, we have zeros down the board. Analyzing numbers even further for the small scale orders that tends to represent the retail side, we had more buying than we had selling. And then when we take a look at what happened on the medium, we had more buying than we had selling. And of course, for the large, which represents whales, institutions, or funds, we had 0 on both sides. And then when we take a look at the turnover ratio, it was at 3.01%. And this is not too bad due to the fact that they did have earnings inside of the after hours. So knowing this and going into tomorrow, I could see that turnover ratio picking up even higher since it did have a big bounce, and we are at $15 at the time of this recording. So now let's go into the final thoughts, and we'll go over some more details as well. So for my final thoughts for ChargePoint, before we get started, let's go over a quick overview in regards to their earnings results. So ChargePoint Holdings reported quarterly losses of 23 cents per share, which missed the analyst consensus estimate of 15 cents per share by 53.33%. So again, what we already know already, since ChargePoint is a growth stock and that's what they're focusing on, they are going to have losses. Let's continue. This is a 86.63% increase over losses of $1.72 per share from the same period last year. The company reported quarterly sales of 80.67 million, which beat the analyst consensus estimate of 76.62 million by 5.29%. So again, we want to see that they're driving revenues. We're seeing growth because it is a growth play. This is a 90.31% increase over sales of 42.39 million the same period last year. Again, ChargePoint is going in the right direction in regards to growth. And then quickly, what we're going to go over is what they were talking about in regards to guidance, because that's part of the reasons why we're seeing the stock move up in the after hours. So here we go. ChargePoint Holding rises on bullish full year outlook. Electric vehicle charging company ChargePoint Holdings Inc. stock rose 7% in the after hours. The company expects revenue this year to reach 450 million to 500 million, up from 242.3 million for the business year ended January 31st and above the 379 million analyst consensus according to FactSet. ChargePoint reported a better than expected 90% revenue increase for the fourth quarter and narrowed losses, which we spoke about. So the chief executive Pasquale Romano pointed out to the company's revenue gains in its first year as a publicly traded company, during which it expanded its activated port count by more than 60%. So if you are a long-term investor in ChargePoint, this is exactly what you want to see. Of course, they have not gotten to profitability as of yet, but you already knew that already if you are going to be taking an investment in this play. It is a growth stock, and do keep in mind with the current environments that we are in, this is not the best case scenario because you could see it pull back further, especially if you're going to be going through interest rate hikes. So that's why I say you want to make sure that you do your due diligence and you have a high conviction in the plays that you're in. And in regards to the technicals, I would love to see ChargePoint get the $16 going into tomorrow, but the likelihood of that happening, I'm not too sure about that because the markets have been choppy. We saw what happened with SoFi, how it just sold off right at the beginning of the day. So I can see there's going to be a lot of profit takers. There's also some people that are probably bag holding who are waiting to sell. But of course, I do feel like some people are going to be buying in with this bullish guidance and so forth. So we're going to see how that price action looks, but I won't be surprised if we end up having a serious pullback and give up those gains that we made inside of the after hours. Also, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership, we could see institutions continue to load up on shares. Plus, on top of that, for the short interest information, ChargePoint does continue to have short squeeze potential. So this is why this is a play you want to keep on your radar. It can provide a swing trade opportunity, but just make sure you're using the right risk management. You know what your entry is going to be, you know what your exit's going to be, you know you're going to be putting in a stop loss, because this is very essential, because with these plays and these volatile markets, the last thing that you want to do is get caught slipping. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see how ChargePoint performs going into tomorrow. We'll talk soon.